Hello and welcome to the Strong Suit Podcast, where we focus on the people part of your business. Every single episode, I feature a world-class expert on talent and recruiting so that you can build a company filled with rock stars. And I am so pumped to speak with my guest today. Let me tell you a little bit about this fellow. Quite remarkable story. You know, these days, let's be honest, it's unusual to spend 5 years with a company, 10 years with a company. You know, maybe occasionally you'll hear 15. How'd you like to be at one company for 35 years of your career, watching it grow, get this, from one location, one store, to coming up on 2,000, right? So 1,500 now, going to be 2,000 soon. That is exponential, once-in-a-lifetime growth, and John Hughes has been an integral part of it because not only did he work in the very first store, but now he serves as the brand ambassador, a face of the company. And we're going to learn a lot about Jersey Mike's. If you have not eaten at Jersey Mike's, I suggest you go there for lunch today. It's fantastic. I'm addicted. John, so nice to have you on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
So I got to start with, the beginning of the story, of course. And then we're going to spend the next 15, 20 minutes talking about the very unique approach that Jersey Mike's takes to training, development. It's a very unusual model. Huge investment in time and money. I know that you probably are a road warrior yourself, helping train and open new stores, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So let's start with that. Let's start with that very first store. Tell us briefly, where was it? You know, what was your job? How old were you? And then we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, my story is one thing. The owner of the company, Peter Cancro, was a senior in high school and was working at this sub shop called Mike's, little seashore town in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and had heard it was going to be for sale, and asked his mom, and I believe his mom actually said, "Why don't you buy it?" They didn't have money, and what happened was a football coach of his happened to be a banker in our small town, and basically invested in Peter as who he was, not necessarily what he was going to do. So he invested in Peter, and at 17 years old, which is illegally the age to slice, he bought one little sub shop with the idea of running that, learning that, and then growing, and that was him. And then I started with him in 1984, growing up in the town, knowing of him, wanting to be like him because he was a mentor to a lot of us.
Yeah. Remarkable story. And now, did I get it right about 1,500 locations?
Yeah, we're a little hovering over 1,500. We have probably about 500, like you said, under development, and we're looking to grow. It's about quality, not so much quantity.
So that probably begs the obvious question. People have heard of Subway. They've certainly heard of Jersey Mike's. What's the key differentiation in the mind of the consumer or the mind of the restaurant owner between the two chains? Because I get the sense they're very different.
Yeah, over the years, many comparisons to Subway. The one thing that comes from the top is, Peter is very firm on saying, we're not in competition with Subway. Subway has their customer. We have our customers. We do things a little different in the fact that everything is sliced right in front of the customer.
Yeah.
Everything, from the lettuce to tomatoes, all the meats. And really, when you look at the price point, a lot of people might be a little concerned about it, but once they see the product and it's in front of them, they understand and get it. That's why we feel getting them into our restaurants is our best way to capture them.
Yeah, it's really a premium price point, a little bit of a premium price point, a premium product and experience. Subway seems more focused on speed and get in and out, and that's certainly got its place in the market. They've done very well as well. Just goes to show you, right, that you would think the market is saturated, yet you guys continue to grow and add new stores. And I think Subway's actually closing stores, if I read correctly. But the market is big enough as long as a very clear point of difference and differentiation, right?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty neat that we really try to act with some integrity in the fact that we're not in business to put other brands out. What we're in business to do is reach out, find our customers, and then once we get them, just build relationships with them.
Yep.
And with all these other brands coming in, I'm in right now, I'm actually coaching about 45 managers in the Chicago market. And one of the discussions came up about, the various brands that are competing against us. And I very quickly respond to them that, not that these other brands aren't great brands, great people working in those brands, but our competition is ourselves every day.
Focus on your game and on execution.
Correct.
As opposed to obsessing over trying to do what others do. So let's talk about the people part of that, John, because I get the sense it's a pretty remarkable approach, driven by the top.
Right.
So if you were to describe a little about the differentiation with regard to the people, not the product or the price, right? What is unique about either the type of people that you hire, the training and development? What would people look at this and say, that's pretty different?
Well, well, the thing is, we have what we call our 5 Ps. I teach 5 Ps, and it starts with our company's purpose, and that's backed up by a brand manifesto that we have that you can actually look up on YouTube.
Yep.
And our 5 Ps are: our purpose is our people. We have product, procedures, and profit comes from that.
Got it.
And we really stress and work on our front line, which is our people, our employees, is the key to our top line, which then allows us to have that bottom line. We allow the bottom line happen as a result of hiring really, really hard, training really hard, and managing easy. And the frontline people are the ones who really drive the business.
So let's drill into that. Roughly speaking, how many people are we talking about?
I think an individual store will go anywhere between, say, 15 and 25 at max number of employees, which is nice.
Doing the math in my head, 20 times, let's see, carry the one, 30,000 people. Does that sound right?
Yeah, probably a little more. We like 40,000 employees throughout the system.
And these are full-time employees, or there's also part-time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the 30, 40 mix.
Got it. Okay.
Full-time, a lot of part-time positions too.
And so tell us what's unique about the DNA of these folks. What do they all have in common? If I were to go store to store and kind of pluck the Rockstar in every store and I put them in a room, what would they have in common?
Ironically, today, when we're done this, I'll be teaching this class. And we have a process where one is we make sure we together identify what we're looking for, what we call a top performer. We don't tell them what to look for because too often our perception of the same trait might be different. Once we identify who we're looking for, we put those, we take all those traits and we put those under a set of core values that each franchisee, each business owner needs to come up with, say 6 of them. Mm-hmm. And then what we start to do is we teach them to start identifying each of the core values through these traits. So there's a process. It's a lot like recruiting for a college or a professional.
You're looking for best athletes as opposed to a specific resume.
Yeah.
But that makes it even harder, right? Because you have little to go on. You're not really looking at what school they went to or the GPA or things like that, those markers. So what is it that Jersey Mike's looks for? What kind of characteristics?
Well, I mean, one is, we look for personality. We look for attitude. We look for confidence. And depending on the age, if it's a part-time employee, obviously the level of confidence is going to be different than someone who's 25. We are looking for energy, enthusiasm. We look at everything from are their shoulders back? When they walk, do their feet leave the ground?
Wow.
We call it the juice. There's vinegar oil.
So there is a word for it.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. This is what the kind of stuff I love too. So the DNA is the juice. And if I was a store manager and you were trying to teach me how to look for the juice, what am I looking for? Because I'm not looking for school or GPA or anything else. Yeah,
we're looking for just a genuineness. We're looking for authenticity. And I think, everybody is. One practice that really helps us, we really coach to never hire off a first interview. We have a minimum of 2 interviews. 3 would be great.
Yep.
And what we look for in the first interview is what we would call our tangibles. And I'm an athlete. I play sports. I love sports. And we kind of adopted kind of the combine approach where your first interview is we want to see an answer, not hear an answer.
Yep.
And then the second interview, if they can catch and if they can throw and they can jump, then we'll invite them back to a second where we will then hopefully see those same things. But then we start getting into the personality. And we don't sit down during these interviews. There's no answering of generic questions. We're not trying to trick them. What we're really looking for is what we call the can and the want to.
So if you're not sitting down, what are you doing? Like, I'm trying to picture in a store.
Yeah, we really have adopted a very physical interview style where rather than sitting at a table and asking a bunch of questions and hearing answers, what we do is we get up, we're in the lobby, maybe I'm sweeping or we're filling a soda case, or I can just be standing there greeting customers. And it's a conversation with the potential. We don't even call them interviews. We call them tryouts.
Tryouts, like a job audition. And then aside from those 2 interviews or tryouts, what are the other phases of the process before you get to a background check, in between?
Yeah, what we do is little things like we will do is I may have you in the lobby, and then I'll say I'll be right back, and I go to the back room of the restaurant. I leave you in the lobby all by yourself, and from the back room I can see you on our security system, or the guys behind the line are, it's a teamwork, so they're looking at you, and we just leave you out there for 30 seconds, 40 seconds until maybe you're a little uncomfortable, and then we come back out and we say, sorry about that. But what we're looking for we're looking for answers to questions like, how do you feel in uncomfortable situations? Are you somebody who takes initiative in introducing yourself?
But again, you're looking through observation, not through words.
Yeah, I would say my biggest advice to people today is don't ask a question to hear an answer, but create a question or a situation to see the answer.
Right. Look at what people do, not what they say, which, frankly, John, I've studied recruiting for 25 years. It's the biggest mistake people make, right? Interviews are not representative, and great candidates don't necessarily become great employees. I love what you're doing with actual observation in these tryouts. Now, do you disclose to the candidate that they're on candid camera and that type of thing, or how far do you take it?
We have one tool that we'll use. It's called a expectation sheet, and it's something we hand to them, and it has a little stuff about the history of the company, and we go in the back and they have an opportunity to read it or not read it. And what we can do is say, when I go back, hey, did you get the chance to look at it? Meanwhile, we may have been watching them on the security system. Right. And honesty is something that we want. And they may say, oh yeah, I read it. And then I can say, well, hey, just want to let you know, there's on this camera, you didn't. And if you don't want the job, then we talk about.
Is that immediate dismissal if you catch them right then?
No, we'll try to what we call sub above, and just kind of call them out on it, saying, hey, is this a job you need, or is this a job you want? If you need a job, there's people hiring. If you want a job, this is going to be a multi-process interview.
Right. Got it. Let's talk about after they're on board. So they're hired. I get the sense you make a phenomenal investment in training. You're living proof that you're a road warrior doing that. Give us a sense, kind of break down the onboarding and training component for these 40,000 people. If I join today, what am I likely to go through? Is it like Sandwich University, or what's kind of the structure?
Yeah, I mean, we have a for owners and franchisees, we have about a 9-10 week program. 8 of those weeks are in stores. I get that for one of the weeks. For our employees, it's up to our franchisees, but we do give them a roadmap to follow, a training program to follow. And that could be anywhere between 20 to 40 hours. But I think the thing that we really find is on the first day of employment, rather than teaching a young person how to sweep and do the dishes and janitorial things, we actually go over a P&L with them.
You teach them how the business makes money. I love it. I love it. No matter what their job is.
They go home telling mom and daddy that they learned EBITDA. They may never understand it. They think it's a silly word, but that becomes a recruiting tool in itself.
Yeah. Did that happen from the beginning, John, or was that added later?
I think it was something that Peter always used to see. He has a saying that his voice mattered, and that his mentors treated him as an equal. And we approach, with our franchisees, we don't sell franchises, we award franchises. Mm-hmm. And one of the big components is that the franchisees that want to buy into our brand, they have to have as part of their core values, the idea that their employees are their purpose, their employees matter, and to treat them with respect. where the industry says it's really none of the employees' business. They're not going to be here that long. So
right. It's a revolving door. So
Right.
how do you, so maybe that's a good question back to recruiting just for a second. How do you assess the franchisee's commitment versus what they say, that the people really come first, and to know whether they should be awarded a franchise?
Well, that kind of becomes real easy when we see the people that they send to us. You can buy one franchise and that owner would be the franchisee, and obviously we would feel comfortable. But then when they start opening their second stores and they start sending their managers to training classes, we can see if they're taking this step seriously or not. And we will actually hold the franchisee up from growing if they're not sending us. We talk, and you've probably heard this before, I want to teach Eagle School. Yeah. Don't send me ducks.
Yeah. So the first franchise is almost a test, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so do you ever take those franchises back when they fail to meet those standards of hiring, or is that just the cost of doing business and then you just don't award them more?
Yeah, we have a process where you buy either one. Sometimes you buy three. We're not into the business selling 10 and 20 and 30 stores, even though we have many franchisees who have done that. What we really want to see is how they operate in their first store, and if we feel like things aren't operating the way we want from their people standpoint, we'll coach them and see if we can make a difference for their second store. And by that time, they typically get it.
Yeah.
And the third and fourth and fifth store that they own, you start to see them understanding the type of person that Jersey Mike's needs. I'll use the analogy quite a bit of we're looking for athletes, a very specific type of athlete, though. A golfer can't play basketball, and basketball players can't play football.
Absolutely.
But they're athletes.
And I can't play any of them.
Yeah. But, for Jersey Mike's, the one key differentiator for all of our staff members isn't that they have to make sandwiches, but the uniqueness of our company is every position has to banter and interact with the customer in line.
That's part of the experience, right?
Yeah. That's a trait that many, many employees do not have.
Yeah. So it would seem like it's probably not the right job for an introvert. Is that right? Would you say you tend to hire extroverts?
Yeah. At a young age, if you see somebody with potential who's an introvert, we'll take a risk. And then lots of times you see that kid open up in there. But if you're an introvert at that 20s, 30 age, where you don't have as much time to bring that out. But absolutely, It's definitely a job for people who enjoy the energy and enthusiasm and face-to-face interaction with the guest, with the customer.
Yeah, got it. Let's talk about secret shopping. Is that something that you guys do? And if so, kind of walk through the structure of that.
Right now we're using a third party, and we have our customer scores, our customer experience scores, the traditional ones, the value, the cleanliness, the quality. And we grade very well on those. Ironically, the differentiator.
How do you capture that data? Is that online, or how do you get that?
Oh yeah, we the company is it's missing me right now, my memory, but we have online feedback. We also collect feedback via the other apps, I guess. The Yelps.
Yep.
And then we capture all that. They dump it into a formula, and then we produce monthly reports to our franchisees.
Got it. By store level on how they're doing.
At store level.
And just so I'm clear, so the listeners are clear, is that on my receipt it says where to go, get a chance to win a free sandwich kind of thing?
Yep. Yes, we do.
Okay. And in addition to the regular surveys, are you doing secret shopping where you personally, well, everyone in the chain knows you, but you might hire a guy or gal to go store to store and really dig in and assess and do a whole write-up and a secret shopper visit, or not so much?
No, it's funny. It's not so much. We're pretty transparent. We really not a company that does surprise visits.
Yep.
We go in if we see something. Peter, the owner of the company, is somebody that likes to practice. Don't send them an email. Don't triple copy evaluations. Sit down with the person.
Yep.
Have a conversation, and through that conversation, give them pointers, and then follow up. And if they don't do what we ask them to do, or they say they would do, we follow up again, and then paperwork starts to really kind of push the issue. But we've really found that a practice of integrity, a practice of honesty, a practice of transparency, over all these years, our franchisees are our partners.
Yeah, they're everything.
you hear it all the time. We work for them. They don't work for us.
Right.
But we do work together.
Right. What do you do in terms of ongoing communication? So how many franchisees are there in total, actual people?
I'd say there's probably close to 500, maybe.
So on average, they own 3 stores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what do you do to stay in touch with them on a regular basis? I'm sure there's an email newsletter, but beyond that.
Wow. And it's funny. I actually was on the phone with Peter, the owner of the company, Peter Cancro, last night. And, he was just kind of commenting about the millions of dollars that we spend on training us, and I'm out here this week. We have guys doing what we call 14-foot sessions, where we put about 2,000 of those on through our franchisee trainers. Yes, we have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Friday with sales, but we have town hall meetings. We have crew rallies, and these are all financed and funded by the parent company.
Mm-hmm.
We are, just to give you an example of the leadership message, Peter is never in the office. He's constantly on the road in stores. And that's a message that we send to everybody. Don't manage your restaurant from an office. You want to run your restaurant, be in your restaurant.
Yeah, got to be in there with the troops.
So I guess to answer your question, it would be, not so much newsletters and such like that. It's really your FaceTime. We want all of our area directors in stores. We want our trainers in the stores. We want our corporate guys in the stores. We're in our stores all the time.
Yep. Got it. I understand. So, so far, John, we've talked about kind of, it would sound to the listener like it's been straight up from 1 store to 1,500 stores, no problems. I'm sure that's not the case over 30 some odd years. Tell us a little about what stands out in your mind as the most difficult time, right, over those 30 years, or maybe it was a recession or whatever it was, when you and the leadership team really started to question, is this going to work? Or do we need a fundamental rethink with regard to the people part, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you were worried it wasn't going to scale, or you hired some bad apples by accident, or fraud. I don't know what it was. You don't need to name names, but tell the listeners a little about that experience and how you came through it on the other side.
Well, in the beginning, certainly no one knew who we were unless they knew us personally back home. So the first few franchisees were our paper delivery guy. It was a relative of a neighbor. It was a relative of Peter. And, they weren't restaurant guys, and they grew and they were learning while we learned. Over the years, we tried to grow the brand different ways, having opportunity shows, selling bigger markets out. But I have to be honest with you, I'm going to say probably about 10 years ago or so, Peter has this instinctiveness about him. And basically what changed the company was us better identifying the right type of person for our brand. That doesn't mean they're better or they can't run other brands, but what we were looking for were the right people. And we stopped growing to a degree. And Peter met every single franchisee. Everybody who wanted to buy a store had to come, and he had to meet them. And he wanted
to. So it became a bottleneck, I'm assuming, right?
It wasn't a bottleneck. It was a shift in, let's not sell stores. Let's find good people, and then when we find good people, let's help them grow, and growth will come that way. Mm-hmm. And what happened was we brought in a group of franchisees through our president, our gentleman by Hoyt Jones. He actually was able to connect Peter with about 6 or 7 franchisees of other concepts that knew how to grow businesses.
Yep.
But more importantly, they fit the core values that Peter was looking for as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a philanthropist. And that's really what has fueled our growth, is that we are very slow to sell you a store. We'll award you one. And money is important, all the kind, but we're not trying to sell so that Jersey Mike's can be part of your portfolio. We'll bring you to Jersey Mike's if you fit the core values of what we're looking for.
Right. So when you think back over this time, obviously you make some bad hires, you make some mistakes. No one's perfect when it comes to recruiting. Mm-hmm. What did you do, or how long do you wait before those bad apples were discovered and exited?
I think it was just really a slow process. Peter went out, we sat down with every single franchisee. We said, this is what we want to do. We asked them what they wanted to do. And obviously there's a little give and take, but we had some people decide to do something different. But a majority of people, once we really talked to them, I would say the majority of people understood it, decided to come with us, and then the momentum just changed into the direction we are now. And
Great.
We're just continuing that selection process of who we bring in. We just say we're in the people business.
Yeah, not the sandwich business. And that's a huge message, right, for the listener, because it's so easy. You walk in a store and you say, oh, these guys sling roast beef sandwiches. But
yeah.
I'm very impressed with what I've learned and researched about the business. The DNA of this company is very different. And how you've scaled is just remarkable. It's an American success story. John, I give you so much credit. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. How can people learn more about Jersey Mike's or figure out where the closest location is?
Well, I mean, we do have the websites. jerseymikes.com is the main website. Actually, ironically, we're doing a bit of recruiting. We can't hire for franchisees, but we are on our homepage letting people know that our franchisees are hiring, what we're looking for.
Yep.
And then we have some social media connections that you can access through the jerseymikes.com website.
Great. John, thank you so much for making the time today.
Oh, no problem. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much. Love what you're doing.